It's Daf Yom Yerushalmi Eruvin. The article Ozbar Addition Daf Lamed Hey Omid Aleph. The second line down Hey Sib Asi, which in the Vilna is on Daf Lamed Beis Omid Beis. The third line down. So yesterday we said that if you have a city which is constructed completely of tents, there's no tchum from the perimeter. The tchum is measured from each tent individually. Okay, in the midbar they lived in tents. So hey Sibasi, Asi Asfoksi you have to have a place to go to attend to your needs outside the camp. How can they get to this place to attend their needs? This explains to me Moshe. Which Rab said, pretty sure it's measured from the opening of their tent. You have to have this place for attending the needs outside the camp. How could you get there? But so the machne was 3 parsos, which is 12 meal. And they only had tents. You call and each one you measure 2,000 amas. They're 2,000 amas over well before they get to the end of the camp. How can they get outside of the camp on Shabbos in order to go to the bathroom? The son of Shabbos asked, Moshe Rabbeinu's base medrash after the Cheta Ego was outside the Machane. It was 2,000. It was a meal outside the Machane, 2,000 amos outside the outer edge of the Machane. How would they get there on Shabbos? Moshe Aslam Shlosha Tzifin and Shlosha Borganin. So the Moshe made for them three huts, 3 shacks, and 3 huts, which we said before is minushi in order to measure from the perimeter. So evidently, once you have 3 huts and 3 shacks inside a huge camp of tents, so maybe that already gives it a kvius, and now you can start measuring from the perimeter. Okay, so I don't know, 3 huts and 3 shacks were in the middle of the Machane, but somewhere in the middle of Machane there were 3 huts and 3 shacks, and then everybody could go out to the bathroom and go out to the base medrash of Moshe Rabbeinu. So that's one pshat. Another pshat is Rabbi Yossi. We have this many times. Since they would encamp and they would travel up Piyadibur, of course, it should be not as Lashah it says in the Vilna. It should be Olam. It was if they were permanently camped there. It was not like a regular camp, tent city. It was as if they were there permanently, and therefore, it had the status of houses, the status of a permanent yeshuv. All right, basically, soon that can't work. Since the Kodesh Baruch promised him that they're going to enter it, so Kamishul Oilam. Right? So I don't think I've translated sufficiently before. I know that many times. Should assume that we learn previous translation. Since they were kind of a nice since they didn't move, camp or move until Kodesh Baruch told them. So therefore, anywhere they camped, it was like they were there permanently until further direction of Kodesh Baruch. So if it's Kamishul Oilam. But Rabbi Serbun says no. Since they knew they were coming to Eretz Yisrael, it's temporary. So that can't be the reason that this tenancy was considered permanent, since they were only nosar pidibur, because they knew they were going to Eretz Yisrael, and any residency was temporary. So Rabbi Avin, that's Rabbi Avin said, Moshe Asolem Shlosha Tzifin and Shlosha Borganim. He made some sort of permanent structures wherever they camped in order to be able to give them the tchum from the perimeter of the camp. Okay, so now we mentioned in our Mishnah that when we make the square of the city, we square it off Meraber Ribur Sha'olam. You square it off according to the directions of the world, north, south, east, west. Maravo Sha'olam, it's west, should be on the west of the world. Dom Sha'olam, and it's south on the south of the world. And of course, the east and the north are the same thing. Rabbi Yossi said, you don't know the directions. Go and learn from the season. In other words, where the sun is rising and setting. Tammuz, from the place where it the sun rises on the first day of Tammuz, ad mokum shizarachas echa b'tkufas tebes, until the time it sets at the beginning of Teves, at the beginning of the season of Teves. Tammuz, of course, being the summer, and Teves being the winter. So it always sets on a rise on the east. In Mizrach, in the place where the sun sets on the first day of winter, on the place it sets in the first day of Tebes, that's the west side. So I'm not sure you need a picture, but there's a picture in the art scroll. Of course, in the depending on the time of year, it's going to furthermost sunrise sunset, or furthermost north sunrise sunset here. The furthermost south sunrise sunset is there. Okay. So the top picture, you see that in the from the vantage point of the viewer, in the summer it's the furthest north over here, and in winter it's the furthest south. But it's always from east to west. The question is whether it's north or south, but it's always east to west, and rising east, setting in the west. Now, since we do have the picture in article, it's important to note that from the perspective of the viewer, since we see the sun going around the earth, when the sun is in the sky, it looks southerly to us. It's obviously, we can be south of the sun, but it goes in a southerly direct arc in the sky. When it's beneath the earth, it goes in a northerly arc. That's important for the next Gemara. Here you have here's another picture which is important for this. That's basically saying the same thing. Just going to describe the arc. So that has to do with the next Gemara. The Papaz are reading it down. First he said, Elbe Amara Bashar Tzaf and Dorom. There was we just said talking about the setting sun, and the rest is north and south. Hadar Dixin Damshin says, Cholech El Darom B'Sobei Bel Tzafon. It's the full pasuk is where is it now? So the ruach here doesn't mean the wind; it means the sun. The wind of the sun, so to speak, the cycle of the sun. So the sun goes around and around, and returns to its place again. And the verse says, "Holechel darom" during the daytime. It's that arc is a southerly arc. And when it comes back around from the other side, that's a northerly arc. Goes on the southerly arc during the day, and it turns back on the northerly arc at night. Round and round the sun goes. And it turns to where it came from. These are the east and the west, which are the cycle of the sun. Now, of course, there are the Shita, which is brought down in some places in Yerushalmi, that the sun goes up around the dome at night, doesn't go around to the other side of the earth like the article is depicting. It goes up around the dome. The same principle. It goes beneath the dome. It looks like it's going a southerly arc. Above the dome, it goes in a northerly arc. So the Gemara switches gear a little bit. This was easy to tell in Shiloh and the Beis Hamikdash, which are both built, in both Shiloh and the Beis Hamikdash are built precisely according to the directions of the world. How much did be in Rishonim? 12 lasso Shar Mizrachi, to make the eastern gate, which is Shar Nikanor, which is the Shar between the Ezras Noshim and the Ezras Yisrael. Here's a picture of the article. this shar over here between the Ezra Slush as the soul with Shar Nikanor. Over here, this gate called by the doors, which Nikanor had brought miraculously from Egypt. It had a miracle where one of them had to throw out of the boat and float along with the boat. So so there they made it Sheteyachama mitzamtzemes bo, that the sun would be narrowly constricted. It would be shine through back with Kumas Tevis and with Kumas Tammuz, both at the beginning of the winter and the beginning of the summer. And now let's go ahead. This picture over here. This is the where it rose in the summer. Here's where it rose in the winter. This is Shar Nikanor, and the lines of sight would encompass from the most northerly, that's over here, to more southerly over there. Okay, so the Shiva Shemus Nehulu, and this gate had 7 names. We find in various different places in Tanakh. Shar Sur, Shar Yisod, Shar Charisis, Shar Itun, Shar Tavech, Shar Chodesh, Shar Elyon. And why is it called Shar Sur? Sheshama Yutmeim Parshim. That's where the Tmeim would lead through the to the Beis Hamikdash. The Korban says Shomli Tmei Tumas Meis V'Sheretz Parshim Mishar Mizrach Lifnim. They would separate themselves. They were not allowed to go past the Shar. V'Shar Nikon Machan Eshchina. Assuming the rest of the Kodesh Hashem. No time in the Har HaBayis, the Tmei Meis or Tmei Sheretz was allowed. Even though there's Nashim, they're allowed. They're not allowed past the Shar Nikanor, because this is called Hu Shar Nikanor Nikon Machan Eshchina. Assuming the rest of the Kodesh Hashem. They're not allowed to go meet the Raisa beyond that point. I believe that they can't even go from the chel, actually, and inwards. I'm not sure there's a picture of the chel here. You have not a great picture, but the chel was like an area around and encompassed the areas of Nashim. Over here, the chel start out here, and there were steps up here, and there was like a little fence. So they didn't let Tmei Mace in past this area either, past the chel, even as a Nashim. But he says that which Chavnim ain't Tmei Mace if not high midrabana, that's midrabana, not midoraisa. Midoraisa, they were not let pass Shar Nikanor. The Hadol V'Chsiv was that they were being called Shar Sur. The Chsiv Sur Sur Tamei Karloma. Sur, get away. Tamei, that's what they called out them. It's a pasuk in Echo, which had to do with the what's the Umos Olam said to Amisol, but here we're talking about actual Tumah. Shar HaYisod, why it's called Shar HaYisod, the foundation gate. Sheshamayu Miyastin Es Halacha. They would pound the halacha, as Korban says. That was where the Sanhedrin would sit near the Shar Nikanor, although it wasn't precisely there. It's over here, Lishkas Agazis. It was near the Shar Nikanor, close to that gate. By the way, there's a nice cross section here at the bottom. It gives the steps going up. On the bias, 12 steps in the chel, there's this noshim, and so on and so forth, and going up. Okay, we're going to speak about that in a minute. We're going to speak about that? I think so, yeah. Shar Charisis. Shar Charisis, what is that? It's corresponded, you can see to it, the rising sun, and this was looking out towards Jordan, and so he says to the sun is called Cheres, in places in Tanakh, that it should not rise. Shar HaYitun, called Shar HaYitun, Shemshan Shkisa Yitzia was the main entry and exit gate, as the Moshe says, Knisa Shemshan Shkisa Yitzia, Yitzia Shen Kach Mikra Yitun, Asayu Bo, come in, right? Asa, of course, means to come. The Shar HaTavech, the middle gate, Shin Yisod Bein Shnei Shorim, because there were two gates. It was found in between two gates. Article doesn't seem to have a picture of these two gates, does it? I don't see it. But no, actually, he learns the two gates are. He does have a picture because it's the two gates of the Shar of the Ezras Nashim and the Shar of the Heichal. Doesn't identify the Shar Heichal, but the Shar of the Ezras Nashim over here and the Shar of the Heichal, which is over here. So this Shar Nikon is between the Tovech, the middle gate, between Toch, which in the middle, from between this gate of the Heichal and that gate over there of the Ezras Nashim. Shar Chodesh. What is it called? Shar Chodesh, the new gate. Shesham chidshu soifrim es halacha. There, the soifrim, of course, the Sanhedrin were mechadish the halacha. The Yerushalmi Eruvin elaborates on this. He says that mitzorah shachal shmini shlo ber Pesach. Rav carry bo bayom. So mitzorah whose 8th day comes out at Pesach, and he saw carry on that day. Abi shein tvuyom acher nichlas machaneh labiyah. Even though any other tvuyom does not go to machaneh labiyah, because you see Yoshafat. The Am Yoshafat B'kol Yoshafat stood up among the congregation. V'gomer Chatzah Chadasha Shechidshu Bo Dvarim. It was called the new Chatzah when they were mechadish this halacha. From Tvul Yom Lo Yikanes Machaneh Labiyah. Now, even though they said a Tvul Yom should not enter Machaneh Labiyah, Chidshu Chachamim with Tvul Yom Zeh Shemut Yichnos. Ha'butar Tzarasa Hutar Ketz is allowed to come in for his be purified in his Tzaras. Is allowed to come in to be purified from his carry. Kain Nirali. That's what Zerah says. And he says about Yafim Marlo Pirish B'Zeklum. Let's see what somebody else says. So he brings the article brings down from the Pnei Meir, I guess the Fei Naim, just a generic understanding. At least because Agazis Sanhedrin sat and returned the halachas which were forgotten when Am Yisrael left the Torah in the days of Yirmiyahu HaNavi. The Chaim goes with the Korban Eidah. So it says Shisham Chitzu Tzalach Yisib Zvachim on Beish Emar B'Yam Yoshafat My Chatzah Chidasha. Except for this one who's allowed to come in, the Mitzorah, what is being Mitar himself from the Tzaras. Okay. The Shar Elyon, the upper gate, Shulamala, the here it says Me'ezes Yisrael, but it was not above the Ezes Yisrael. Rather it says here the Korban Eidah is changed it to Mimachane, so as we saw backwards higher up, as we see in the cross section. The article down here below. There are 15 steps here, and went even higher up, of course, later on. So the Machane Yisrael, he says, is the Girsa. And in any event, even don't learn the Machane, even don't change the Girsa, so it means that as it means the rest of the Harabais. Hachel, the Machane Yisrael, Hachel, Bezos Anashim, those are all lower down, of course, in Shanikra, which is up on top of those 15 famous steps, which Levim said the Shemos. Malisera Hoisa Beis Olami, there was an additional step in the Beis HaMikdash. Over here, it's hard to see it, I guess, but Amma high step, which is a pretty high step, between the Ezes, which was inside the Shar Nikanor, and the Ezes Kohanim, which is a step up over here. This step over here shows this arrow here. Madrega Begova Amma, I think it says there. Looks backwards to me. Okay, so the okay, so all that as far as Nicho was easy, but Shila Beis Olamim. But Midbar, how they determine directions when they're in the Midbar, right? They reckon this very carefully, but how they determine the directions in the Midbar. So I guess it was a sunny day. They wouldn't have a problem because we said before. But I guess there were cloudy days too, especially because they're not only covered all the time. So how can they see? So And for the Aron, when they put it down, it would adjust itself into a north, south, east, west configuration. Though the Chsiv and Sabbath says when Asua Kosim no say Mikdash, the Kohasim would travel. They were carrying the Mikdash. The Mikdash here referenced by Midbar Yud Zeh Aron. The Kimu Bnei Morias Hamishkan Aboam. The Bnei Mori would put the Mishkan in place until by the time the Bnei Kos came. Bnei Kos Aleim Ayaron Nasun. The Bnei Kos, upon whom which the Aron was incumbent, they would then come afterwards, and I guess they would adjust the Mishkan after they would after the Bnei Kos got there. In other words, even though it says they would put up first the somehow they had to work together in tandem. By the way, the Moshe is the one that says in Midrash Nene Kovim Chasim Zvichas Lacham V'Shkiyasa. So they needed to have Mir Mechanas Ruchos. So and the Aron was in the west, and so they knew the Mecham Ruchos from the Aron, which was then in the west, and then I guess it straightened itself out accordingly. So again, if you need the Aron to tell you where the Ruchos are, so the Kimu has to it means either that they waited to in other words they were making themselves stop themselves from doing it, or the Pashut I guess is really that they started to do whatever they could, but they didn't anchor stuff in place, I guess, in a permanent way until actually the Bnei Kos came with the Aron and told them, okay, this is the way to set up in this direction. Okay, so the Kimnei the Kimnei Kasa Mishkan either again means that they rested themselves from being making Mishkan Aboam until they came in Bnei Kasa Mayarona. So no, they again they did whatever was preparatory and possible until the Mishkan came, until the Aron came to them how they could what the directions were. How is the Am still going Midbar? Rashi Chumash brings on both these opinions. It went as a square, and and the other said they went as a beam. So Keteva means that they traveled the same way they camped. Here it just gives the main Shvatim of the four sides: Yehuda, Reuven, Dan, and Ephraim. I'm not sure what this is going with this. This done is not the massacre of Machnos. Anyway. Wait, why is done not in the back? Yeah, I didn't realize this. If according to this way they traveled, Don was not the Maasef. No, it has to be. Yeah, so I was going to discuss that, right? Don is Maasef Chol Machnos. So how was that in my mind? I guess I shouldn't say always, because obviously this Gemara several times in the past, but that Don was on the west. It's not that way. Yehuda was on the east, and Ephraim on the west, and Reuven on the south, and Dan on the north. Okay. Yehuda, Reuven, Ephraim, and Dan. According to the Korah, that is the way they traveled. I bet the Mishkan, of course, in the middle according to this. Then you had Yehuda, Reuven, the Mishkan, then Ephraim, then Dan. That's according to they travel like a beam. Okay, so Manamar Keteba, the opinion holds that they travel in a box formation. Like they camp, that's the way they travel. Manamar Kekera, they travel like a beam. Maasiv Chol Machas and Tzivosim, it says Don was Maasiv Chol Machas, they went last, they picked up all the last items. So Madam Arkakora Mamakaim Mamakaim Kasiva, he who says that it went like a beam, what does it do with that which it says? Kasher Yachnu Keni. So it says, no, it's not how they traveled. Just like when they camped as a Pi Dibor, Avni Silas Pi Dibor. So when they started traveling, they started traveling Pi Dibor. And they were always given directions when to stop and when to start. I want to correct what I said before because I read a Kasiva and it's really Keteva. So it's Rimanamar Kora Mamakain Keteva, the one who says like that it's a Kora, like the child of beam. What's he going to do with the indication? That's like a Teva, Kashach so. And it says Mamachayasa be Dibra from the Siasa be Dibra. Manamar Keteva, he who says it worked like a box. Mamakai Kora, what does he do with the Pasam Asakol Machnos, which seems to indicate that they went like a beam. What does he do with that pasuk says that Dovas Masachol Machnos with Tzivo Sam? So the answer, the key is in the word Tzivo Sam, according to their army, according to their large numbers. Since the Shevet of Don, it had a large population, and it would spread out. It would travel fast. The way article tries to give a scenario for it, it would be, they would extend past. In other words, you had Yehuda, Reuven, Ephraim, and Dan, even though they were on the side, since they're a large camp, they were stragglers behind. And the stragglers from Shevet Dan. So the stragglers back here say, they anything less than they would give back to them. They'll see that which says, kind of their large numbers, they would be the ones to gather up the stuff and be able to return to anybody who lost it. Okay, switching gears. Back to how we measure the cities. Tani b'shem Rabbi Yehuda v'lo Rabbi Yehuda Abitzi zeh b'koslea. Even the ledges and the protruding walls of a house, which would protrude beyond the normal perimeter of the city, they would expand the city beyond the boundary. You have, you can see it's just very small, extending, protruding kaisel with a protruding little ziz on it, on the front over there. Okay, so it extends the boundary of the city. Okay, what about the airspace of a yard? Is that also counted to extend it? But that already is this discussion is very long, so we'll stop here for today.